It was the middle of the day, with the weather being surprisingly bliss, despite the downpour that happened a few nights ago. The smell of wildflowers and forest in the air combined with the warmth of the sun's rays was enough to make Kojo consider lying down for a quick doze in the soft grass. "Hey, Rengoku-senpai." At the sound of his name being called, Kojo stops and glances to see none other than Tanjiro along with his two friends, Zenitsu and Inosuke, running up to him. "Good evening, Kamado, my boy," he happily greeted the young demon slayer. Tanjiro Kamado, the young warrior who brought to the demon slaying course just several months ago, along with his turned demon little sister, Nezuko. At first, Kojo disagreed with Okiyama-sama's wishes to keep them alive, but had felt the blazing heart within the boy's heart as his determined to save his sister. The young boy had even managed to knock out the short-tempered Shinagawa Sami, with a simple headbutt, which Kojo found ballsy, and that deserves some much-needed respect. "How are you?" "Great. Listen, are you coming to the Rokuna with us?" Tanjiro asked. The butterfly estate had been packed full with the sick and injured, and the four youngsters had nowhere to crash for the night. Thus, they were planning on staying at a roka in a nearby village. No, I'm afraid not, Kamado, my boy." Kojo stops and then turns to the younger Kokai. "My wife's waiting for me at home," the Hashira answered with a happy grin. "I'm sure you three would be fine without me." He would have gone with them, but he hadn't seen his wife and child for almost 7 days. He had been on a mission to slay yet another demon that had just returned. And to say he'd been homesick would be an understatement. Kojo missed his wife's warmth and lovely kisses, and his son's constant cooing and chubby cheeks. There was nothing more Kojo wanted to be than eat a nice, warm meal that his wife cooked and held his cute little son. And despise to that dirty deed with his beloved Yen before they went to bed. "Oh, I forgot. Your wife is the Snow Hashira, right?" Tanjiro asked, with an astonishment in his tone. "A wife? Wait, Rengoku-san has a wife?" Zenitsu exclaimed in shock and immediately shot the taller man in an instant jealous glare. Yes. We've been married for a year now, and we have a son named Tayo. He's now 8 months old." It was no surprise to the 3 young demon slayers who carried away Kojo gets whenever he brings talking so highly about his family. It just goes to show just how much Rengoku cherishes those close to him. It's that gave him the strength to fight and protect the world, of course. Minutes felt like hours as the Flame Hashira continued telling them stories about how he and his wife met, and so forth. At this point, Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu knew more about the Rengoku family than they thought they would ever know. "That's wonderful, Rengoku-senpai," Tanjiro praised before changing the subject. "So, is it true she's also the famous Yokiona?" Tanjiro asked, stars twinkling in his eyes. From where he came from, tales of yokai, asayeki, and monoko were common. Aside from demons and vengeful spirits, urban legends have always interrogated him, ever since his grandma used to tell him those old stories as a child. "Kenpachiro, what's a Ichimonora?" Inosuke asked. "It's pronounced Yoki-onna, Inosuke, and it's a female spirit said to have control over ice and snow. Hence her name meaning snow woman," Tanjiro exclaims. Of course, that was the child tale. It goes much further into hood territory. But, of course, the boar-headed warrior doesn't get it. However, the idea of having ice powers made his lady sound like a worthy opponent for him to challenge. And if their mentor has a force to be reckoned with, then surely his wife is no exception and must be strong also. Right? She sounds strong. I'd like to challenge your snow wife, old goody-eyed senpai, Inosuke says. You idiot, exclaims Zenitsu. You would dare challenge a woman to a fight? I won't let you. With that, the two immediately began to bicker back and forth as Kojiro couldn't help but release a boisterous laugh as his young Kosai afterwhelmed. I don't think that's a wise idea, my wild friend. She may freeze you to death, Kojiro says before glaring at him. But if you wish to challenge my snowflower, then I'm afraid you'll have to go through me first, he adds, flashing Inosuke a friendly, yet menacing smile that immediately had chills shooting down both Inosuke and Zenitsu's spine. As much as he hates to admit it, Inosuke knew he wasn't no way near strong enough to go toe-to-toe with the infamous Flame Hashira, despite Rengoku coming off as a big goofball. So, with that in mind, the young demon slayer backs down. I'm good, was all he said. Don't be discarded, my wild friend. Just keep training to get stronger, Kojiro encourages, which seems to lift the wild, young warrior spirit. Well, we won't keep you then, Tanjiro smiles. We have to get to the Roka by sundown. Do we even have enough money to rent a room? Zenitsu asked Tanjiro. At his friend's question, Tanjiro quickly searched pockets and eventually pulled out an old and worn coin purse. Let's see. Opening it, he started to count his currency. I got 9,000 yen, he says. Only 9,000? That isn't enough. Well, not if we put our money together. How much do you have? Tanjiro asked. Zenitsu then reached into his pockets and pulled out his own coin purse. That had the Japanese Hinagara for you written all over it. Don't know why. After opening it, he counted his own currency. The blonde gave a disheartened sigh. I got 7,000 yen. The two then shook a look together, before glancing at the boar-head-wearing friend. That changes of Inosuke having money on his person is unlikely, but it wouldn't hurt to ask, right? Hey, Inosuke, how much yen do you have? Tanjiro asked. Though a bit confused, it didn't take long for the beast warrior to understand as he reached into the thick fur belt of his pants. Minutes of searching, he finally pulled out his hand and showed them his findings. In his palm was 2 twigs, a rubber band, a stone, some lint, and, hey, a 10 yen coin! 100 yen coin, sorry. Seeing this, the two merely sighed in defeat. Even their combined savings, they wouldn't have enough to stay in Aruka, let alone for one person and one night. Well, we could find a cheap one to stay at the night, right? Tanjiro suggested. How about the Oberlin Inn? It's only about 9,100 yen for one night? No way! They have rats and cockroaches, and the villagers say the owner are slumlords. Zenitsu trembled in fear and dishevelment. But what other choices do we have? Kojiro, who had been watching and listening, came up with an idea. Maybe the young Slayer's ordeal couldn't help but express sympathy for them. It seems they'd hit a brick wall and couldn't have no place to sleep for tonight. But unfortunately for his young Kosakai, however, it's short-lived when an idea suddenly popped into his head. You guys are welcome to stay with me if you want, Kojiro says. Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke quickly glance at him in awe. But Rengoku, we wouldn't want to make your wife angry. I mean, we wouldn't want to be a burden, Zenitsu says nervously. At that, the Flame Hashira briefly remembered the last time that he'd brought a guest home. Yin had been furious, not because she was selfish, but because he failed to tell her beforehand, which led to not having enough food for the extra mouth to feed. It was embarrassing, but now Kojiro learned from his past mistakes. Rengoku-san? The alpha-missional male was shaken from his memory by Tanjiro's voice. He blinked rapidly to get his head out of the clouds before turning to the three young slayers. Nonsense. I'm sure my beloved wouldn't mind. Besides, it wouldn't be kind of me to let my Kosakai stay in a dirty inn. Kojiro smiles. Now, come along. With that, he turned on his heels and started on the road towards home.